We are joined by two people from the Martha Karua campaign secretariat. Daisy Maritim is a member of the secretariat, and Diana Ngao is the head of communications at the secretariat. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Eric.
Good to have you on Kenya's biggest conversation.
Very happy to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
It's a privilege. Yeah, it's an honor.
It's an honor on our part.
It is on our part.
Mtatoa kakitu.
Bora sio kubwa.
Mtatoa kakitu. Diana, you're head of communication at the Martha Karua Secretariat. Mm-hmm. What is the Martha Karua Secretariat?
The Martha Karua Secretariat is really the main organ that is supporting the Running Mate campaign. So apart from the Presidential Campaign Secretariat, we also support her individual campaign as Running Mate of the Azimio presidential campaign. Yeah.
If I look puzzled, it's because I'm puzzled.
Okay.
Presidential campaign involves the deputy as well. Otherwise, it isn't a presidential campaign because we have a presidency.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So now, how then do we demarcate this? How then do we then have a campaign that only seems to focus on the deputy president's position?
I think it's not a focus because there's maybe you can look at it this way. Before she was appointed running mate, she had a team, and that is the team that is behind her. And so we work very closely with the Presidential Secretariat, which pre-existed Martha Karua's candidacy. So it is a coming together and a forming of synergies between the two candidates.
So was the team working for Martha Karua, the Na Kenya party leader, or was it working for Martha Karua, the person, politician?
It was working for Martha Karua, the person, the politician.
I see. Okay.
Yes, there were people who were members or are members of NAC Kenya, but solely the team behind her was a team of people who believed in her, and yeah.
Okay.
Are you
So
still puzzled, Charles?
What do you do now as a secretariat?
What do we do now?
Yes.
We support the Raila Odinga Presidential Secretariat in managing the campaign.
Okay.
And our focus really is it's demarcated to the Running Mate campaign, because there are times where you see Martha Karua is on her own going to campaign without her principal, and now we're the ones supporting the that campaign activity.
Okay. So there's a lot about packaging Martha Karua then. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
There's positioning Martha Karua as, a suitable leader, as a probable candidate for presidency, even before she was picked to be Raila's running mate. So what is this image that you've been crafting around Martha Karua? Who is Martha Karua?
Martha Karua is, in one word, a stateswoman. She is a politician with a long and known history of integrity, of service, of straightforwardness. And now, as the deputy presidential running mate, she espouses the aspirations of women. She is the closest as Kenyan women we have come to the presidency, because she is the first running mate in a front-running ticket. So she represents all those things.
So I'm hearing a lot of the packaging around being woman, appealing to the woman vote, and also appealing to the others. But the primary appeal here is around the woman, around her gender. Is that so, Diana?
I'd say not the primary, because she started by saying that Martha Karua is a stateswoman, and she represents the aspirations not only of women but really of a better Kenya, because this has been Martha Karua's journey. She has been fighting for a better Kenya, and we've always seen her on the side of the people's interests. So Martha Karua, let alone being a woman, is also the kind of leader that fights for their interests and defends the interests of the people. So away from the gender card that makes her who she is, she's also this national leader who has been there, whether in government or out of government, we hear her voice fighting for the people.
You know, whenever one hears of the term fighting for the people, broadly speaking, one hears of the voice of a politician, because all politicians, whether they are fighting or sitting or standing for the people, the people are part of the equation and part of the language that politicians use.
Yes.
Okay? Martha Karua's reputation, without a shadow of a doubt, is clear in many ways. But she's a politician. And politicians, by definition in this country, are an amalgam of many things. Now, the things that you say are the things that one could argue are preeminent and the things that come to the fore.
Yeah.
But you cannot survive in politics for as long as Martha has and not be a tough cookie, if I may use the term.
Yeah.
You must be someone who is resilient, somebody who has a singular focus that is often beyond compare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in the time you've worked for Martha Karua, what would you say are some of the issues that Martha has had to overcome? Because to get to where Martha is, she has overcome certain things. What has she had to overcome?
She has had to overcome patriarchy.
Yeah.
She's had to
First and
overcome.
foremost.
Yes. Because first of all, the very nature of the profession she has, or the career she has chosen to pursue, is very patriarchal in nature. It is male dominated. However, in terms of overcoming it, we can say that she started with a bang. Because at I think she was 34 when she first became member of parliament.
And floored the incumbent.
The incumbent, who was a Kenyatta man.
Not
Karevi.
Not just a Kenyatta man. That person had been head of the civil service.
Yeah.
The first one of African of Kenyan descent.
Yes.
So that was no mean feat. So she has continually needed to overcome patriarchy, but she started by overcoming not just patriarchy, but patriarchy that was encouraged in the system. Yeah.
So when you talk about packaging Martha Karua, like you've said, she's self-made, right? She, at 34, got into politics, won, floored a giant, has risen over the years, has championed, has been visible. So when the secretariat comes now in to say, let's now fine-tune the packaging of Martha Karua into a proper brand, what does it entail? What is it that you have been doing, behind the scenes? Just take us through some leakage of what you do in the engine
Our
room.
secrets.
Yes.
Eric.
Behind the scenes, the goodness of working for Martha Karua is that she's already a known brand, and there's really not that much work we need to do in terms of informing people of who Martha Karua is.
Actually, you do.
Where we fall, where the work begins or starts is really just erasing some of the patriarchal terms that have been associated with her. Because when she's tough, she's told she's angry. When she's assertive, she walks out on everyone. So our job, also part of, I'm saying in terms of the communications of her secretariat, is really being able to package that it's not that she's angry all the time. It's not that she gets upset and walks out. It's being able to help people understand that these are some of the principles that make Martha. And the only reason that she's been... there's this perception that she's angry is because she's a woman. Because if a man was to do that, they wouldn't be called angry. It wouldn't look negative.
They'd be called strong.
Yeah, they'd be called strong.
They'll be the boss.
Right? And she was even said that the only man in Kibaki's government.
Yeah.
Right?
Is that positive or negative from where you stand?
It is both.
It is both.
It is both because it implies that her strength, her resilience, her taking a stand when she was in Kibaki's cabinet were attributes that were supposed to be of a man. But she just happens to be a woman, and so she's an anomaly. So
That's the positive side.
No.
So
No.
that's the negative
That doesn't
side.
sound
That's the
positive
negative.
at all.
That's the negative side. The positive side is that it was meant to be a compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That she's equal to men,
That
Yeah.
she is equal to
if
men.
not better.
If not better. So it is a compliment, but it is sad because then men are supposedly the SI unit for excellence or for achievement. But the other thing, Eric, to answer your question, is something that Raila Odinga said when he appointed her the running mate for the Azimio coalition, is that he wants her to head the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. And this is important for three reasons. Number one, Martha Karua's training and competence is I would say obvious. She's a senior counsel. And then secondly, what we have mentioned, her history of integrity. So she's somebody who has proven herself to be anti-corruption, but also has, walked the talk. But then thirdly, we feel at a point in our political culture where we've faced such a steady decline in our political culture in terms of accountability at the leadership level, in terms of corruption, in terms of representing the people in a way that espouses integrity. And so we are at a very delicate point where we need, and if I could use the word, some sort of redemption. And she's the woman to do it.
Do you see any danger in that?
In what?
In her, let's say, nomination as the person to spearhead justice and constitutional affairs in an Azimio government?
In what sense, Eric?
I'm asking, do you see any? Then I'll tell you whether I see any. Yes or no, do you see any?
Because we have looked at it 360s, there's definitely pitfalls, including the very first one, which is even a constitutional interpretation of his pronouncement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Article 147 of the Constitution states that a deputy president cannot hold
any other
state job. However, and I speak this in my personal representation of how I see it, I think Raila's was a declaration of intent. It's a declaration of intent that she would in some way be either a patron or an overseer of the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs.
Okay.
You could make a constitutional interpretation based on what the functions of the president himself or herself are. And one of the functions of the president is to oversee departments and ministries. Now, Article 147, which lays out the functions of the deputy president, says that the deputy president shall deputize the president and shall also
Perform any other duty assigned by?
assigned by the president. But those duties must in the first place belong to the president. You understand? So,
Yep.
so it's about taking that interpretation and for the Azimio government to find a way for her, as Martha Karua, to still have some presiding role in that ministry. However, we're also cognizant of another pitfall, which is the separation or the independence of the judiciary and the presidency. So it means then that her role should be narrowed to specific things that are within the intentions of Raila Odinga, the president.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should it be corruption? Should it be expediting cases that
Corruption
have to do
cases.
with public funds and that kind of thing?
How about this? How about this being a setup? So, let's assume the Raila Odinga Martha Karua ticket wins August 9th. Okay.
Yes.
So the President Raila Odinga has basically told the nation that this whole issue of fight against corruption, I'm placing it at her doorstep. So if we don't see any movement in the fight against corruption, you know where to look. Here. Without necessarily having all the power to, for example, you cannot control the DPP. You cannot control the DCI. You cannot control the ESCC. So what is it that Martha Karua is going to do to deal with the corrupt elements within government who are every day, we are reading in the papers, junior officer here who has 300 million shillings in their bank account, and those stories still keep coming out. And then if you ask Raila, he says, yeah, my deputy is dealing with that. At the end of 5 years, ask Martha.
Everybody knows that the buck stops with the president.
Oh, that's what.
And his
That's where we're going.
Yeah.
and his is to assign for work to be done on his behalf, not excluding himself from the work or from the results of the work. Diana, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what I was going to say. That it is something that he can't be able to exclude himself and leave it on Martha, because at the end of the day, he's the president and he assigned her this role.
But do you see it as, that?
As set up.
This, not necessarily intentional setup. Could be intentional. Could be, just circumstantial. At the end of the day, everybody will have expectations, as everybody is going to cast their ballot on August 9th.
Yes, absolutely.
There's an expectation that Martha Karua is coming to slay the dragon.
Yes.
So if this dragon is still alive 5 years down the road, then we'll be looking at, but I knew that I'm voting because Martha Karua is coming to slay the dragon.
And if the dragon won't be slayed by then, at least it will be severely injured. Anyway. And I also hear you saying that it is a monumental task, which it is. But then also, Martha Karua is not one to shy away from a leadership role in representation of the people, no matter how monumental it is.
Okay.
No matter how Herculean.
Second pitfall or setup or whatever you want to call it. Raila Odinga and the Azimio Council chairman are the proponents of BBI. Martha Karua has been leading on the issue of Linda Katiba, let's implement this constitution.
Yeah.
It's not about time. In fact, we asked her on an interview here, and
Yes.
she said, Mr. President, we are not in a constitutional moment.
Yeah.
You may be, but we are not. Now, those two, the president and the leader of Azimio, have said BBI will come to pass. Then this person is the one who is in charge of constitutional affairs.
Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
I actually see it as, for me, who was also part of the Linda Katiba movement, I actually see it as something to give me confidence that even though that she joined the team that was pushing the BBI agenda, and now, and then they are saying that BBI will come back, I think Martha will be the person who will be ensure that if it is a constitutional moment, we will follow the constitutional process to amend the constitution. You see, the issue, one of the issues that the Linda Katiba movement had is that the BBI process was not constitutional, right? The processes and how they were pushing for this constitutional movement was, so to speak, kind of illegal. Right, so
It was stamped so by the Supreme Court.
exactly, and you see that's where it died. If it was ever to come back again, I'm glad that she'd be on this side to ensure that it is going to be a constitutional process. Because I don't think we are against amending the constitution. I think the most important thing is that if we do get to that constitutional moment, we are following the processes enshrined in that constitution.
So it's the why and the how.
Yeah.
But also, Eric, contrary to popular belief, I actually think that BBI is more of a unifying factor for Raila and Martha than it is an area of convergence, for this reason. When Raila Odinga was on the BBI corner, he was doing it in what, representing what he felt was right for the people. When Martha Karua was in Linda Katiba, she was doing the same thing. She was on the Linda Katiba corner, representing what she felt was right for the people. And I say this is not an area of convergence because it actually demonstrates how, even when Raila Odinga and Martha Karua have been on opposing ends all through their political careers, there has been some values and an underlying current that are actually similar because they have always been to use Diana's word, fighting
For the people.
for the people.
City.
Charles chuckles.
You know, the truth is they haven't always been on opposing sides.
Yeah, that's true.
If you look at the history of this country and the fight for what we call the second liberation, they espouse the same values, really.
Yeah.
It's just that what we call differences are what could be termed political differences,
Yes.
depending on the side that you are at a particular time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one must remember that there's a trend we've seen in this country over time, which I consider absolutely positive, in that even at the harshest and the most difficult of times, our politicians are able to sit, talk, dialogue, and agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now that is an extremely positive thing. Even this thing we call the handshake, it is precisely that, people agreeing.
Yes.
If you talk about the move we now currently have of all these coalitions, it's the same thing. You may have your own camp, but the understanding that you can actually talk to each other
Yes.
and find commonality. Now, that having been said, the thing I find challenging and the thing that I hope you will unravel and explain to me how Martha Karua will deal with is the ever pervasive culture, intrusive culture of our politics. What do I mean by this? What I mean is our culture of politics often represented by clear interests that divert very, very sharply from what would be in the interest of the people. Okay? It's always an issue. And it doesn't matter which politician you look at. There'll be that tag where they'll ask, but is this really in the interest of the people? Now, as a deputy president, Martha must be aware of this because she hasn't had any political seat for quite a while now. Is it 10 years?
10
Yeah,
years.
10 years.
Precisely.
Same as Raila.
Yes. How does Martha hope to deal with this? Because it doesn't go anywhere.
Let me answer in the way I have understood your question and correct me if I veer off what your intention was. Martha, over the weekend in the Million Women for Martha event, which we haven't spoken about, Eric.
We're heading there.
We're heading there. Said that bad behavior is infectious, but so is good behavior. The one thing or the one word I can say that in response to your question, Charles, is consistency. Has she, in her long political career, at any point demonstrated some sort of wavering or backsliding or fitting into the political mold, the status culture, I mean the status quo? She hasn't. And history is a pretty good indicator of the future. So when it comes to Martha Karua, and I hope I'm answering your question, if I understood it correctly, when it comes to the fear that she will somehow submit to our political culture, or to the negative elements of the political culture, I think that fear for me is not there.
Yeah. And building to also what she said about bad behavior is infectious and so is also good behavior. And this has actually been seen on the campaign trail when Martha is speaking. When she came out as a running mate and we were on the ground, and you'd hear her saying that, tumekuja kunyenyekea, we're coming to ask for your vote humbly. And all of a sudden, you're hearing also the other politicians also take the same narrative, you know, that we're coming humbly. We're not coming to steal your vote from your pocket.
Yeah.
And now you hear it that, you know, we are just coming in peace. Just listen to us. We want you to listen and make your own decision. And that's a kind of good behavior that becomes, or good kind of narrative that becomes infectious. And you hear it now with other political things. So I think that Martha Karua can influence the positive and even amplify the positive things of our political culture moving forward. Is it possible to change it 100% in the next 5 years? I think that's a tall order. However, she is a woman for the job.
Okay, it's 26 minutes to 8. Let's take a break and take a look at the weather and traffic. Diana Ngao is the head of communications at the Martha Karua Campaign Secretariat. Daisy Maritim Minor is also a member of the Secretariat. They're here to talk to us about Martha Karua campaign and also tell us about the 1 million Women for Martha movement. Why a million? Why 9? Why not like the central bank requires 999,999? Why go beyond a million? Why not 2 million? Why not 5? There are 22 million voters in the country. Why not all? Okay, time for that break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Two ladies from the Martha Karua Campaign Secretariat, Daisy Maritim Minor and Diana Ngao, 1 million Women for Martha movement. This is an event that took place on Saturday. What was it all about?
So it wasn't, let me just correct you there, Eric. It was million women for Martha. Not 1 million.
Not 1 million.
Not 1 million.
Million.
Million women for Martha.
Million.
Yes.
Without an S at the end.
Yes.
So they cannot be 2.
It can be 2, it can be 6, it can be 10.
Okay.
Million women for Martha.
Okay.
We just said that we wanted to brand it Million Women for Martha. And the movement is really because of also let me start with something that all of us are aware, is that the excitement when Martha was nominated as running mate for the Azimio coalition. We saw excitement across the board, and we also saw specifically excitement for women because this could be the first time, like Daisy said, we're going to get represented at the highest level. And when we saw that, we saw a base that needed to be galvanized or put together. And we were like, in the past, women have, in political, especially during the campaign season, women are really not spoken to in the campaigns, in the past elections. And now because of Martha Karua's candidature, they are now speaking to the women base, right? And we are excited as women to see someone rise to that level. And we were trying to be not what we're trying to do, what we are doing, because we're not trying, we are doing it. What we're doing is to be able to put together all these women who are excited for Martha, or even the representation of a woman at that higher level. So that ideally is Million Women for Martha. And we also want to be able to change the political culture, especially during the campaign season. For us, we believe that campaigns are won through votes, volunteers, and money. And that's what the Million Women for Martha movement is about. If you see also the call to action, it's to volunteer, to vote, or to donate, to ensure that we're able to help the Azimio coalition install both her and Raila into the presidency. Yeah.
So it's about appealing to the women voter, the 49% of 22 million voters who are of the female gender, that this is your candidate, that this is your moment. Volunteer and do what?
Volunteer and mobilize other people, mobilize not just women, but men as well. Mobilize through street walks, mobilize through calls. We have a call center. And then also fundraising, as Dana said. So we have a USSD, star 789 star 22 hash.
So many. Star
789 star 22 hash.
Okay.
And when one goes on this USSD platform, it gives you the options. For instance, donating from as little as 10 shillings, 50 shillings, 100 shillings, whatever you have in your hand. And if you don't have anything in terms of monetary resources, just registering yourself also on this platform, forming a database of women who can then be, who can interact with each other. And mobilize for the Azimio la Umoja presidential candidates.
You talked about excitement that was generated.
Yes.
What happens when it dies down? Because it must at some point.
Yeah, and before I even answer that, the excitement somehow, believe it or not, preceded her nomination. And this is also how the Million Women for Martha came into being, because there was this undercurrent of women who were already regular women, not women with positions, not women with resources, but women who were coming together and agitating in their way for Raila Odinga
To pick Martha.
to nominate Martha Karua as the presidential candidate. What happens when it dies down? Will it die down, or will her work then replace the excitement of her candidature, her appointment, her election, when she's actually in office and making a difference? I don't think it will die down. We'll just get a steady period of pride. In our,
That's what you foresee.
that is what I foresee.
Daisy clearly has a crystal ball that she looks at. The reason why I mentioned this is, yes, there's always excitement around issues of this nature
Yes,
because of the novelty of it.
the Obama effect.
Yes, when you actually begin the nuts and bolts work, there'll be the expectations which will never ever be met. You see, excitement comes with expectations.
That's true.
And expectations, by their very nature, in many instances, are in the land of make-believe. They're not real. The question I'm asking you, the secretariat, is what are you doing to prepare for that moment? That's really what I'm asking. Because
Yes. Yeah, I get it.
there is what can be done and there's what you think can be done but can't be done. At least not in the way you think and not within the time limits that you think.
I get it.
One thing that we're doing with the people who have registered for the Million Women movement is engaging them, and also not engaging them only to take the action of pledging your vote for Baba and Martha, but also engaging them to understand their issues. And we are working with a group. They're basically the working committee has been split into different groups, and these groups are really to be able to synthesize all these issues we are hearing from the people we are calling from the call center, right? The women issues, to be able to understand and really articulate them, also along with the Inawezekana agenda, and be able to share with them that, okay, this is what the Inawezekana agenda is saying for women, and this is what we know Martha will be able to stand for after when she is installed. So it's really just engaging them to also understand, because we want to inspire, but we also want to educate, like you said, because we don't want to have over women who are have such high expectations, and then when we do get that a woman who's a deputy president, they feel shortchanged because she didn't live up to their expectations. So moving away from just the August 9th poll, we believe that the Million Women movement can turn into a really powerful policy or lobbying group for women.
Why must it turn into, why doesn't it just become? And so that it just continues
From the
becoming-
beginning.
Yes,
It has to start somewhere.
it has started. That's the point.
Yes, and we're really in the starting process, and so there's steps to get there. We are, and why?
Are you planning to invent something that hasn't been done before?
Perhaps. So what I'm saying, Charles, is, and why I'm saying we are starting is because we are really at the mobilization stage. We're really at the stage where this aspirational tag of million, 1 million, 2 million, 10 million, as Ida Odinga said at the event. That's the point where we are at right now. Galvanization.
How are you going to manage the expectations, like City is asking? Because that is actually a very big part of the communication. Even right now, have you looked at the Azimio manifesto? Have you sat down with your presidential running mates, with your principal, and said, this is actually what is going to be possible and doable, and then this is how we shall communicate so that we manage the expectations? Can you tell me 3 things that you know for sure that Martha Karua would be able to bring to the table and see them actualized? And so you can then communicate and say, you can hold us accountable for this, and the other.
Do you want to take that?
I could say one thing, and this is an issue that we've spoken about here also, but it cuts across and it also touches to the woman, is the issue of tightening the bolts of corruption. Because when we're able to seal up those leakages and be able to divert the funds to things of social welfare, that affects the woman. Because the woman in a society, in a societal context, is really at the center of it all. She's the one educating the child, right? Maybe not even by monetary, but taking care of the child, nurturing, and really the state of the economy is really reflected to the woman at the end of the day.
Okay.
So one thing I could say that they could expect is that Martha will be able to lead that charge on anti-corruption that will trickle down to the that will trickle down into now giving funds to social welfare that touch into the woman. So is it education for their children? Is it be able to get access to funds for their business? Health, which is a really big one, but all these things. So it really touches it. Sina friends, it touches down into, boils down, it trickles down into things. So that's the one thing. Maybe.
So fight against corruption.
Yeah.
That Martha is going to take charge of the fight against corruption. We're going to see reinvigorated fight against corruption. Okay, so how shall that present itself to us? Is it more prosecutions? Is it finally someone going to jail? Is it what? People being hanged? Wajakoya saying, let's shoot the people. How shall we see the fight against
Give
corruption?
them a good meal before their demise.
Or tie a snake around their neck.
Yes.
with hemp probe. And this is exactly also what we had mentioned earlier on in this conversation. Raila Odinga is already pinpointing the how by putting her in to oversee, or installing her to oversee the Ministry for Justice and Constitutional Affairs. And as I was saying, it's a declaration of intention that is still going to be fine-tuned because there's a lot of considerations to be made, what Eric, you were calling the pitfalls, things such as the independence of the judiciary. But for sure, one thing that has held back the fight against corruption is the rate at which corruption cases, corruption that has to do with looting of public office, the rate at which they are prosecuted, the time that it takes. But not just the time that it takes, is that for many of those cases, there's never an eventuality. They're never concluded. And those people still remain in office or seek office. That, from where I sit, is one very specific area that Martha Karua in office, based on her training, based on her experience, based on her history, which means a strong will tackle.
Daisy,
Yes,
let me tell you. Let me give you a perspective that I'd like you to consider.
Yes.
What Martha can do and may want to do is not difficult to understand.
Yes.
Her abilities proven not difficult to understand. The million women narrative and the push for it, should you not consider it to be the beginning of a formation of structures to support her? I'm going to explain what I mean.
Yes.
Because when you make tough decisions, you will be opposed. There will be serious pushback. And there'll be narratives that oppose everything that you do. Case in point, the current presidency. There are many things this government has done extremely well. But the noise around what has gone wrong drowns it.
Yeah.
The president's lack of popularity in his own backyard, with the narrative that he has done nothing for them, it is not true. There is a lot that has been done by this government. But the support I'm speaking of are people who can come out and state categorically that this is nonsense. We have done this, this and this and this. This is the position. In the absence of that support, somebody can end up feeling and actually being alone, where you seem to be fighting a rearguard battle, which you shouldn't. So, 1 million people are a great number. Have you considered looking at history and looking at what a presidency needs, not in terms of just the numbers who vote for you, but the numbers who can actually support you when you need it? Have you considered that when you talk about the million?
Charles, you have hit the nail on the million women head. That is actually a very present intention. And that's why I was saying that as we are starting, a very clear, immediate goal is the numbers. Because those numbers will outlive the election. And then we are thereafter left with a database, a group, a galvanization of women who lobby, who speak on issues that are important to them, but also who provide the presidency, including Martha Karua, with that public support or backing on issues. Because it also really presents a platform for vocalization. Because people can have the same voice, the same intent, the same ideas, but it's very disparate. So that's a very integral intention of the Million
movement.
Women for Martha movement.
Okay.
Is galvanization of voice.
So let's look at how it's being organized. You've told us that there's a short code, a USSD code rather, where people can go and register
Yes.
and also contribute. So let's start with registration. So once you register, then what?
And then now we have your details and we start to engage. And that's what Daisy mentioned earlier, that we have a call center and we have women who are actually just volunteering their time to be able to engage with these women. So in the issue of their expectations, our call center is able to talk them through exactly what our short-term and maybe even long-term goals are. So engaging...
So one person, someone goes and registers, they
Yeah.
get a call from the Martha Karua call center
They get a message first and then later get a call.
saying,
We're calling from...
Whatever, yeah. Definitely welcome. Welcome to the movement. This is what we are about. But in line with what Charles was alluding to or said very clearly, we have this database that can be called upon to action. That can be called upon to action. Let's say down the road in the president, this is a very basic example. Down the road in the presidency, Raila Odinga and Martha Karua are calling for specific action or calling for specific change, then their voices are amplified in the public space, because then there's a call for action to those women, and men can also register, by the way. There's a call to action
So
to...
what are we going to be, honorary women?
Anything you would like to be. but what you would be is men for women, men supporting women.
He for she.
Yes, he for she, as the United Nations puts it. So what Million Women does is to provide an aggregation of people that can be called upon to action, whatever that action is down the road.
And the current action for us right now is to...
turn up for vote.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's mobilization to
It's
vote.
mobilization for
To vote.
votes.
How widespread are you throughout the country?
Nationwide, every corner.
With the
Since
secret-
you
Kana-
launched it, how many do you have? How many people have registered?
That's a really good question. I haven't checked the numbers of late. The last time we checked, which was Wednesday last week, we were close to 100,000. And I'm guessing from the event of Saturday, we may have doubled or even tripled that number. Yeah.
Okay. So it's getting the women who support
Yeah.
the candidacy of Martha Karua. Speak to everybody now in a minute. Who's going to take this?
Daisy.
Daisy.
Hello, Kenyans, men and women. First of all, thank you for taking your time to listen to us this morning. We invite you, first of all, to go to the USSD platform, which is *789 *22#. Do what you can. Give what you can. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be resources. Use what, and to all the supporters of the Azimio ticket, to all the supporters of Martha Karua's candidacy, whatever you have in your hand will go a long way to help this ticket in the road to State House. So whatever little you have in your hand, be it resources, be it the ability to mobilize, and especially mobilization, get at least 5 people to, first of all, believe, and then to
And then
second,
to come out and vote.
turn out.
Please tell them also, when you're calling them and as you're engaging with them, that this election is all about peaceful election, Penda Jirani, elections bila noma. Yep. The National Cohesion and Integration Commission is really pushing this campaign and saying, we've got a mandate to ensure that there's cohesion pre, during, and after election, and SpiceFM is partnering with them on that.
Okay.
Pass our message along. It doesn't matter who you vote for, who you support. Let's get in and get out and maintain the peace.
Absolutely, Eric. And that's something that also Martha Karua says, is that we are all Kenyans, and after August 9th, we will all have to live with each other despite our different
differences.
sides. So yes, we are calling for a peaceful election, and we're all calling for, the Million Women Movement is also calling for women to use their voices to be able to mobilize the vote. Because when we do install her,
That's it.
oh,
Thank you. Well said. Diana Ngao, Head of Communications, and Daisy Maritim Minor from the Martha Karua Campaign Secretariat. Asante sana. Keep it here for more. Good morning.